This is Learn the Better. I'm Garrett.
And this is Neville.
And today, what are we doing today, Neville?
We're gonna play Where's Louis C.K.?
Okay,
Where in the world is Louis C.K. right now?
where is he?
This man thought it would be a great idea to do a comedy special in Russia. Wait, in Ukraine. Kiev specifically.
Oh, really? Like when? Today?
Yes.
Right now?
I think it was scheduled for weeks. And he
Then all this shit happened.
you know what? Let's Google it. I might have already gotten my facts wrong.
I don't know. It says it was canceled because of the Russian invasion. So I'd assume it's
Well,
canceled.
of course, the actual show is canceled, but I'm pretty sure he's like,
Trying
didn't
to
he get
his
stuck
fame
there?
back. Oh man.
Did he get stuck there?
Probably. Where is Louis C.K. right now? Surprisingly, the internet won't tell me where someone is right at this moment. Shame. Okay.
Twitter, Doug.
Okay, so overall,
Twitter.
like we don't usually normally do anything besides our typical, movies, video games, comic books, TV shows, things like that. But an important situation is happening right now that we should probably talk about, which I know nothing about anything beyond what's literally in front of my face. So, I know nothing about what's happening, but we're going to figure it out together. But you, on the other hand, know quite a bit about what's happening, right?
No. Heard, yes. Through osmosis, picked up through hearing it through the
You've
grapevine.
watched the news or something.
News is subjective, I guess. I can't cite my sources, but I know I've heard of some situations that are happening, and there's other situations that are literally unfolding by the second,
Okay, so with media, there's always going to be biases or misinformation, just in general. Then when you're talking about war, there's always, propaganda and even more misinformation just because it's beneficial to war. So obviously the information we're going to get is probably not 100% correct. So the information we're portraying is also not going to be 100% correct. But we're going to use the resources available to, talk about it in the most accurate way possible.
Well, Russia's excuses are fighting a ground war with separatists. There's a bunch of Russians live in Ukraine, and they want protection against some sort of a right-wing battalion called Azimov Battalion or some shit. I don't know. There's apparently been a war going on for a fat minute, and Russia every year goes to the border of Ukraine and does training exercises and pushes tensions. And
okay, well, let's back up for a moment, because I don't know why they're at war or anything. I don't know why this is happening. So do we know why that Russia is attacking Ukraine?
Well, it's an ancient land dispute, I guess. They're this is ancient Russia, Russian people lived here forever. Russian people still live here. So there's a high Russian population in Ukraine.
What are the differences between Russians and Ukraine? Do they speak the same language? Or I don't even know any of that stuff.
Listen, I also have an American education. I don't know if they're what Slavic language they speak. There could be some cultural differences or geologic differences. There's some people that moved in recently, and there's some that have been there for generations, and there's a lot of people that got displaced after World War II. So there's a lot of we had this much land before World War II, and we want that again, and it's all kind of really about a place to launch submarines and boats. When it all comes down to it, they want a place really close to the water, so they're going to keep pushing the line, is what I'm understanding, or what I've come to the conclusion of. But that is speculative, I guess.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see. As soon as he gets somewhere right there on the coast, he'll probably be all right, we're good. All right, we're good all of a sudden.
I mean, the Ukraine, if you look at it, the Black Sea is connected to it. The Black Sea is not connected to the rest of the ocean. The Black Sea is landlocked. Well, there is a what's that called? Canal in Istanbul. Okay.
Yeah.
So
all the Russian subs, all the Russian ships, everything has to go through there, you know.
but Russia has water access on all other sides on the eastern side. So
True, but there's not.
like why attack Ukraine and not Belarus or Latvia, you know? Like I wonder what the why? Like why? Obviously there's the
It's-
reason he gave with the neo-Nazis or whatever you call it, which apparently is
It-
not true.
Well, they technically are. Like they technically are. You know, like they have like these like Nazi symbols that they use. You know, but
Well,
you
hold
know
up, let's
they're also the militia that they're kind of like the Taliban. You know, of like the area. You know, the local militia that protects local sovereignty.
Man, I mean I don't know because it's a whole country, Ukraine, right? Whole country. So it'd be kind of weird to say like this whole country is nothing but Nazis or something like that, and then use that as a reason to attack the country.
Well, it's like it's attacking Afghanistan, Iraq. You know, it's like we're here for ISIS. You know, they're basically taking a play from us. Like we're here for snow ISIS. You know, like we're here for the Great White Germans. You know, or the Nazi Russians, I guess.
Okay. Well, here's an article from BBC News. Is that okay? First, let's back up. Is BBC News a good source?
Oh, who knows? Who cares? What does it
BBC
say?
is considered generally reliable. Okay. So, according to the internet, BBC News is generally reliable. So, I'm scrolling Google and I see that on every single link. Okay. So, I'd say it's okay to read this article. So, BBC News, the article is why is Russia invading Ukraine and what does Putin want? That's his name, right? Putin?
Yeah.
That's kind of a funny name, Putin.
Vladimir Putin.
Oh, well, Vladimir is a scary name, but Putin is a funny name.
Yeah. Too bad it's not with an O.
Okay, so by Anne Larency, Russia has launched a devastating attack on Ukraine, a European democracy of 44 million people, and its forces on the outskirts of the capital Kyiv, Kyiv.
Yeah.
For months, President Vladimir Putin denied he would invade his neighbor, but he tore up a peace deal, sending forces across the borders in Ukraine's northeast and south. As the number of dead climb, he stands accused of shattering peace in Europe. What happens next could jeopardize the continent's entire security structure. Okay, I would agree with that statement.
Well, I'm pretty sure Ukraine is like in NATO or threatening to join NATO, and NATO is like basically like the allies, you know, the Axis versus the allies. You know, it's like the modern equivalent of that, like the European powers that like gang up together. And the reason why they have NATO is so they have just barely enough power to like push Russia back, you know?
So NATO, okay, so NATO is a group of countries?
Yeah, it's an alliance of countries that are like, I have one bomb, you know, I also have one bomb, you know? Like, I have a bunch of guns and maybe a plane or two, but no ships, don't ask, you know?
Okay. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Okay.
And there's a bunch of stuff where it's like, it's basic, NATO is like kind of anti, like Russian in nature. And like, there's been a thing about us leaving NATO and rejoining NATO, and NATO's bad because we have to pay dues, you know, like union dues to NATO. I'm like, come on, dog. It's about preventing thermonuclear war, you know, but whatever.
Okay. So it's an intergovernmental military alliance between 28 European countries and 2 North American countries, established after World War II. Okay, so that's exactly what you're saying. Group of countries that are hoping for not World War III.
Yeah, or like anti getting bullied again.
So who is in NATO?
It's a great question.
So here's the states that are in NATO. Albania, Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Croatia, Czechia, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Denmark, Estonia, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, don't know if I said that right, Montenegro, Netherlands, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States.
That's like everybody in the European Union that borders Russian territory.
Okay, so we are in NATO.
The last president didn't want us there, and he tried to withdraw us, but Biden brought us back in. I do believe it.
Interesting. Okay. So, continuing on the BBC article, Russian troops are closing in on Ukraine's capital days after Russia's leader ordered a full-scale invasion of northeast and south. In a pre-dawn TV address on 24th of February, he declared Russia could not feel safe, developed, and exist because of what he claimed was a constant threat from modern Ukraine. I don't know anything about, politics or economics or whatever you call it, but Russia is a huge country and it's worried about Ukraine, which is a little country.
Yeah, somebody at work was like, Ukraine's like the size of the United States. I'm like, you're out of your... I'm like,
Ukraine.
No, it's not. It's like 21,000 miles or something, right?
Ukraine is about the size of New Mexico and Texas put together.
Yeah, and like the U.S. is like 10 million miles or kilometers or something. I might be getting my units mixed up.
And Russia is about 4 times the size of the United States, maybe. It's massive. Oh man. So for some reason,
just
Russia,
just like map dilation due to
but still
the latitude. But look up like surface area.
That's just gonna give us a bunch of numbers. If you just look at it on a map, like no dilation could really mess you up this much. The sizes are so astronomically different.
But it's not like inhabited. But let me tell you, there's an ocean of oil underneath all that snow.
Ukraine.
So Russia, the ancient ancestral land conquered by Russia.
Okay.
Which is actually probably owned by ancient China. So if they're going to ancient ancestral claims, then they should get Ukraine back. Yeah, but they should also give back China, their spot of land with all that oil under that.
Ancient ancestral claims are not a good reason to start a war.
That's what I'm like. There's like a Chinese 9- line thing where it's like Taiwan is in our borders. It was or 90% of the fishing water outside of Taiwan is in our borders. So I'm like, they're building walls in the ocean to basically keep the fish from swimming towards Taiwan. Crazy shit, this is an ancient ancestral claim.
It just sounds like a fake reason, the real reason is something more tangible, I'm sure.
That's something literally America has zero right to. We have no claim to anything. So we're just unbelievably jealous about that.
Okay. So airports and military headquarters were hit first, then tanks and troops rolled into Ukraine from Russia. Many of President Putin's arguments were false or rational. He claimed his goal was to protect people subjected to bullying and genocide and aim for the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine.
That's what he said.
Has been no genocide in Ukraine. It is vibrant democracy led by a president who is Jewish. Okay. How could I be a Nazi? Said Volodymyr Zelensky. I'm sure that's not how you pronounce his name, who likened Russia's onslaught to Nazi Germany's invasion in World War II. Yeah, I fail to see a good reason here.
There isn't. It's thinly veiled at best, but Putin was trying his best to be like, they're setting up bombs near where we're doing our training. They're soldiers casually walking around with a camera, oh my god, look, do you see this IED? Bring the camera over here. Can we document this for false flag purposes? So they've been trying for a while, and they're actually doing it, Doug. They're flying planes over, they're dropping bombs, they're hitting buildings with missiles. People are getting messed up. There's grannies shooting guns.
So there's a bunch of NATO countries surrounding this area. So we got Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria. Those are all NATO countries, and they're surrounding Belarus and Ukraine, which are not NATO countries, and then Russia's on the right. So,
yes.
So if they take over Ukraine, then what's stopping them from taking over Belarus? Or why not take over Belarus as well?
Because they want unfettered access to the Black Sea. That's really kind of
the Black Sea, though. It seems like that because on
shipping, pipelines, money, navy. You know,
Hmm.
all they have to do is grease Istanbul's pockets, and they're good to go. They're already shipping out of there. You know, they need a warm dock. You know, that's been their goal for as long as they've had goals. You know,
Okay.
but you know that's conjecture.
So, what does Putin want? This is still part of the same article. President Putin partly blamed his decision to attack on NATO's eastward expansion. He earlier complained Russia had nowhere further to retreat to. Do they think we'll just sit idly by? Okay, so NATO is expanding eastward?
Yeah, and they want Ukraine to join NATO.
Ukraine was about to join NATO?
It's always been like threatened, like if you join NATO, we're gonna do something really bad, you know, like pretty sure.
So, plans for NATO membership were shelved by Ukraine following the 2010 presidential election, in which Viktor Yanukovych, maybe, who preferred to keep the country not aligned, was elected president.
That means he was a guy who is a Russian citizen or a Russian operative.
Okay,
Or
well,
people would jump to the conclusion that he's a Russian operative because,
well, that's old though. This is the old president. What about the new president?
well, he might be more interested in joining NATO, and Putin can't have that. So he's rushing in. So, like, technically, they're not in NATO. So, technically, Putin isn't declaring war on 10 countries, you know, plus the United States. So he's like, Ukraine, he has to like zero in on Ukraine. He's like, I got to get my dock before my opportunity disappears. You know?
Okay. So
he's got to put in his puppet government, you know? And then he's going to be like, okay, they're independent. And then he's going to put his people in there. And then they're going to vote Putin all the way. They're like anti-NATO, blah, blah, blah. Just kind of like what he did in Georgia. He already like took back the Crimean Peninsula. Which he did like recently, you know, like did the exact same thing, you know. So this is kind of like a hack move for him. He come up with some new material, Putin.
Okay, so on June 2020, Ukraine joined NATO's Enhanced Opportunity Partner Program. So they were about to join, or they were heavily thinking about it. So this new president, Zelensky, he was for joining NATO.
This guy, he had like a scandal with like the whole, I think Trump got impeached because of this. He was like, I won't send y'all aid because they were like already like fighting Russian people, you know.
Okay.
They're like, I won't send you aid unless you talk shit about Joe Biden's son, you know, like give me some shit on Joe Biden's son. And like they're like, dude, you can't fucking do that. And he got like impeached for that. So that's the president. And funny enough, the guy, whatever, Vladimir Zelensky, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Just beep that. Just edit all that shit out.
Zelensky is the president of Ukraine right now.
Yeah, Zelensky. I'm pretty sure he played president on a TV show in the Ukraine, and they loved him so much that they voted for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's their own little actor president.
Okay, well, that's cool.
I
don't know enough about the Ukrainian president to have an opinion on him.
I'm just saying he was an actor that played the president before. Like I think it's just funny.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure most politicians could be fine actors.
Yeah, or vice versa.
Yeah. Okay, so Russian opposition to Ukrainian NATO membership. This is from Wikipedia, keep in mind. So Russia is strongly opposed to the eastward expansion of NATO. February 2008, Putin said Russia may target its missiles at Ukraine if its neighbor joins NATO. Okay, so apparently this has been a struggle because, okay, so now I'm confused. Like, I'm questioning why won't Russia join NATO? Like, what's bad about joining NATO?
What was the purpose of NATO again?
It was established. Hold on. Article 5 of the treaty states that if an armed attack occurs against one of the member states, it shall be considered an attack against all members. Okay, so it's an alliance.
So, do you think there's a? I was like, do you think there's a bunch of members of that alliance are just going around willy-nilly attacking people? And I was just like, oh yeah, we're in the alliance. It's like, fuck. So for the most part, that's like a defensive alliance, you know?
It's strictly defensive. Yeah, strictly. So like, okay, okay. But I'm curious, why don't why doesn't just everybody join this NATO thing? If everybody joined it, then it would kind of be pointless, I suppose.
It's because they know they're the bad guys. I don't know. That might be edited. Just go ahead and edit that shit out. I don't know. That's probably a terrible take, but in my personal opinion, like when you know you're doing shit wrong, you're not going to be like, wait. Well, Russia's like always like asking, like, please let me join the G12. You know, whatever. Yeah, my take is wrong. I got a bad take. I don't know. I have no idea.
Hmm.
It's very suspicious that they are anti-NATO. Where they're like, we're not willing to help anybody because we want to take land so we can have a duck. You know, after they probably take Ukraine and like have access to the Black Sea, you know, easily, and all they have to do is like get in really good with Istanbul. Boom, boom. You know, they can exploit people from that area. That's, of course, my own homebrewed personal theory, of course, because it's just strategic, you know, access to this hemisphere, you know.
Yeah, I don't know why Russia doesn't want to join NATO.
Google Russia anti-NATO ? And I do remember, like in high school, there was always like that one guy who's like, NATO, huh? Yeah, what a great idea that is. Am I right, guys? And like everybody in the class is like, what the fuck are you talking about? We're like, it just sounds reasonable, you know? Like, I guess when the Democratic teacher like says like, yeah, communism, it's all about sharing. Doesn't that sound great, guys? And everyone's like, yeah, sharing is great, you know? And like, there's always one kid that's like, my dad would fucking have a fit right now. Like, I'm going home to tell my dad, you know, like, there's always that one kid. I remember. So
okay. So the reasons for Russia not wanting to join NATO are not clear, but some sources that are probably not correct would say global ambition. So perhaps because Russia wants to take over more countries, which seems to be the case.
okay.
Another reason,
like I said before, I'm sorry. Good.
Well, another is going to be China, because if Russia joined NATO, then China and Russia would have friction, and they're touching on the map.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what are you going to say?
Simple Google search, why is Russia against NATO? It does. People also ask, why was Russia kicked out of NATO? On the 1st of April, 2014, NATO unanimously decided to suspend all practical cooperation with the Russian Federation in response to the annexation of Crimea. But the NATO-Russian Council was not suspended.
Okay.
So when Russia invaded Crimea, they were in NATO prior to the annexation of Crimea.
Russia was in NATO at some point?
By this really bullshit ass Google search I did, yeah.
Well, okay, hold up. Relations between NATO military alliance and Russian Federation was established in 1991 framework. In 1994, Russia joined the Partnership Peace Program. Okay, so in 1994, Russia joined the Partnership Peace Program, which is the same program that Ukraine joined 2 years ago. And since that time, NATO and Russia have signed several important agreements on cooperation. Okay, so Russia was never in NATO per se, but it was kind of like not an enemy against NATO. Or maybe there was a time when Russia was in NATO.
Yeah, because they didn't want to fucking back themselves into like being cut off the face of the earth, you know? Like if you break one of these like alliances, you know, like these defensive alliances, you basically like you ruin yourself, you know, you become the messy slut for the next 100 years, you know? People like they're already trying to hit Russia with sanctions, like they're like, we're cutting the cheese off. You ain't get no more cheese, no more D-cell batteries, no more gasoline, no more Teslas. Say goodbye to Bank of America. You're not going to use Bank of America on our watch, all right? So like straight up, they're like cutting their access off to like banks. You can't use like banks can't like transfer money to it from Russia right now. They're like sanctioning the hell out of them, but they're like Russia can hold. We're strong, you know. That's their philosophy, you know. There's no sanction that can break Russia. Mm-hmm. So let's see. They
Okay, so yeah, it seems like the NATO expansion is what sparked this war. Because let's say Ukraine joined NATO, which was in the works, apparently. Well, the peace thing was in the works for sure. So, NATO's probably just around the corner after that. But so here's a quote from Putin. It says, let's imagine Ukraine is a NATO member and starts these military operations. Are we supposed to go to war with the NATO bloc? Has anyone given that any thought? Apparently not. So that seems more of a reason than the whole Nazi thing. So,
Well, if he gets in a conflict with these, battalion guys, he doesn't want it to spark into like a war with the Ukrainian army. That's turns into a fucking thermonuclear war with America.
yeah. So NATO, okay, NATO defends itself by saying it's strictly a defensive alliance, but Putin is playing it off like it's a offensive alliance.
Like they would false flag,
Yeah.
which is not out of the wheelhouse.
So
Russia tried to do the same thing. We are notorious for doing false flags to get into like conflicts.
yeah. Well, so NATO's not just defensive in reality. You can request military help from NATO if you're in NATO.
Oh, yeah. You could also, yeah, exactly. And if you're friends with somebody in NATO, you can ask for help and then transfer that help to them,
Okay. So that was his worry, was that like Ukraine would become part of NATO and then maybe next up Belarus, which is not out of, the realm of possibility, because if Ukraine became NATO, then Belarus would be the only thing in the whole area that's not NATO.
Well, before it was Crimea, it was Georgia and all that. So like he's already like been fighting Black Sea adjacent this whole time. So like I think Belarus is fine. I think he's already like put his puppets into Georgia. Excuse me if I'm speaking out of turn. I don't know anything about Georgian politics, but he's already like fought in Georgia and he's already annexed Crimea and he's now moving into Ukraine. We could move north, or we could keep, or he could just set up right there, or he can move southeast or something. I don't know.
So Georgia is a former Soviet republic. Okay. So it seems like Georgia.
Pretty sure in the early 2000s there was like a Georgia conflict, right? Or maybe that was 90s.
Yeah, there was a Russian-Georgian war.
2008.
2008, yeah. So if there's a Russian-Georgia war, how is Georgia still a country and not part of Russia now?
Well, because like what everybody's fearing is going to happen in Ukraine. He's like, all right, we're going to enforce and declare Georgian sovereignty, and well, I don't know the exact term, oneness, not sovereignty. God, I had the word in my head and I just said sovereignty for no reason. Fuck. Independence, and whatever, independent from Russia, but it like while he was in there, he like took out the leadership there and put his boys in, and made sure that for the next 20, 30, 40 years, his boys stay in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's basically, he's like, he has free reign if he wanted to, but I don't know that for sure. That is just an assumption. All this could be probably jailable in the future. Well, I don't know.
At the very least, it's safe to say that NATO expansion played a part in why he attacked Ukraine. So
it's scary. There's a treaty that's pushing up to his line. He thinks, oh God, like, listen, there's an old saying from General Patton. He's like, all right, we beat the Nazis. Let's keep going. And they're like, what do you mean keep going? He's like, we got to keep moving east. Like we beat fascism. Now we have to destroy communism, like while they're weak, But and sure enough, we had a Cold War and the nuclear arms race. Now it's a stalemate. We can't do anything, or the face of the earth will become a unsalvageable hellscape.
Okay.
Unless you're rich or adjacent to the Colorado airport.
Okay, so here's another article. From the New York Times. So let me look up if the New York Times is a reliable source.
Hell no, that's owned by Jeffrey Bezos, I think. That might be the Washington Post. Well, we listen to Fox News. What does Fox News have to say?
Okay.
Let's get the other side. Why are we not fighting China right now? Why are we not dropping bombs on China? Why are we even talking about Russia? They're cool.
Oh,
It's
man.
actually genius. I watched a video of Trump. He's like, this is genius. Putin is a genius. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. For like $15 in sanctions, he gets a whole country. This is great. He's a genius. I'm like, God. His sarcasm is it's very sharp. It's very sharp and biting.
Well, yeah.
It hurts.
America doesn't really have much to do with this at the moment.
It's like, well, they're not
from
NATO.
what I've seen. Okay, so there's a New York article Time, which is apparently a reliable source of information, called "The Roots of Ukraine's War: How the Crisis Developed." Oh boy, this goes into the Cold War. Okay, so there's a lot going on.
This is a vast and deep conflict.
Okay, so what does Putin want? Let's cross-reference. Mr. Putin appears intent on winding back the clock more than 30 years, established a broad Russian-dominated security zone resembling the power Moscow wielded in the Soviet days. Now 69 years old and possibly edging towards the twilight of his political career, he clearly wants to draw Ukraine, a nation of 44 million people, back into Russia's orbit. Okay. Russia presented NATO and the United States in December with a set of written demands that it said were needed to ensure its security. Foremost among them was the guarantee that Ukraine would never join NATO, that NATO draw down its forces in the Eastern European countries that have already joined.
Man, so he sectioned it off. He's like, I'm getting my port no matter what. He's like, it was so great launching those submarines out of there, and I'm getting it back.
So it seems pretty cut and dry that Ukraine was going to join NATO. Russia didn't want that, so Russia's going to take over NATO. Or, sorry, Ukraine.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Russia basically like said we're going to drop the fucking bomb if y'all get involved. So if we join a ground war, it's bye bye. It's the big bye bye. It's the mutual assured destruction. He's just flagrantly flaunting it around. I'm like, please let those circuit boards deteriorate faster. You know, like what's the lifespan of a circuit board for an ICBM? You know.
All right.
Well, yeah. There's. It's not likely that we're gonna have to fight it, but.
Well,
I don't know.
If we fight it, then that would mean NATO's getting involved, which then has a bunch of implications.
True enough.
Because if we are getting involved with a non-NATO country, then it's going to be NATO versus Russia. Now, who would be on Russia's side?
Ooh, very true.
So if we get involved, NATO is going to be versing, let's see.
Yeah. You're like, it would be on Russia's side.
Okay,
Oof.
so here's the belligerents. On one side, we have Russia, Belarus, Luhansk, and Donetsk. I did not pronounce those correctly for sure. So there's 4 countries on the right side. Russia, those 2 I couldn't really pronounce, and Belarus. On the left, we got Ukraine. Ukraine is totally alone.
Are you looking at a map?
No, I'm looking at the belligerents on Wikipedia.
I don't know what the fuck that means.
Well, so type in Russia, Ukrainian war, and then on the right side it shows you like who's fighting who.
And like, what's the fighting lines look like right now? That's the question.
Oh, like on the map, it does not look good. So from the north, the east, and the south, Russia has taken over.
Can you share?
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking at.
February 24th. That's 2 days ago.
Yeah. So it could be a little off now, but so Russia's taken over north, east, and south, maybe 10% of Ukraine, just along the borders. They can't get to the west side because they don't have a good entry point, I assume.
They took the airport like almost instantly.
Which airport?
Dog, I don't know. It was a video. I didn't read the video description. But they took one of these airports and they're just like flying people in, like, and that was like within like 4 hours of day one. So they probably have trucks and tanks on the ground. They've been flying planes in, refueling them at that airport.
So apparently in 2014 to 15, there was a war in Donbass, Donbas, from Russia.
That sounds like a Halo like war.
Yeah.
New Donbass.
New Donbass. Okay, so I didn't hear anything about this at all.
This is the secret Donbass war with the aliens in the Arctic Circle.
Huh. Okay, so apparently that happened. Okay, well, it's pretty clear what's happening. It's just Russia's trying to take over Ukraine to combat NATO expansion. Yeah, pretty much it. Very sad.
Yeah, but what's happening now? Update. Let's get an update. It's been 2 days since they invaded. Where are they at?
Well, let's see.
It needs to be in Twitter. All right. So Louis C.K. is not in Kiev.
Louis C.K. Okay.
All right.
Thank
That's
God.
the man, the myth, the legend. Now we can look at the latest news that is not Louis C.K. related.
Okay, CNN. Is that a good source of information? Let's look that up.
Depends on who you ask. We might lose 90% of our followers, but
Why?
what is a criminal news network? My God,
CNN is a powerful news source.
George Soros inspired. Ukrainian troops fight Russians, advance on Kiev.
So CNN is a very reliable source, but like all of the news channels, CNN has their own opinions on things.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're not changing the subject to China. They're not talking about Russia's not eating dogs. Stop. Look over here. No, boo boo.
Okay,
I shit you not. I forced myself to watch Tucker Carlson, and he's like, "Are Russians eating dogs? I don't think so." Like, he's like listing off all these like Chinese. Did Russia give us the kung flu? Like saying all like terrible things. You know, I was like, stop.
So does CNN not like China?
No, Tucker Carlson is Fox News.
Oh, okay.
I forced myself to watch it. I was like, let's see. Let's see how the invasion is going.
Is Fox News a reliable source?
Absolutely. It's the most American source. Funny enough, I have to mention this. They were talking about like drinking bleach or something. Like they're talking about swallowing some sort of a chemical that was not for COVID, and they got sued by some people, and they had to like in court documents state that like it's an entertainment show. Like 90% of the shit like on Tucker Carlson is not the news, you know, like if it doesn't say the news, it is not the news. Like if it's not the 9 o'clock news, then they have zero obligation to report facts.
Okay.
Like, and that's in court filings.
Well, I'm pretty sure all news sources are the same exact way.
Yes, you're right. They're panels that like, what do you think? My God, I'm outraged, sir. This is outrageous.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they get their money from people watching. So if you just flat out black and white say, this is what's happening, all right, let's move on. They're going to get less viewers than someone going, they're eating dogs. Imagine your own dog getting eaten, you know, stuff like that. Okay.
And Russia's not doing it.
So yes, Fox News has a very loyal and devoted audience. They seem okay. They are apparently very credible. The majority of whom are right-wing Republican. Okay. So is CNN the left?
Man, is that like an oxymoron or what?
Is CNN like left-leaning and Fox is right-leaning?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it sucks that we have to deal with such a specific American view on
bias.
Something that doesn't even have to do with us yet, like Russia and Ukraine. So.
Bias propaganda.
Okay, well, here's a CNN article about like live updates for this war. So 11 minutes ago, 6-year-old boy killed in Kiev.
Oh,
okay.
So they're bombing Kiev.
Ukrainian. Yeah, if you look at that map, Kiev is, I believe, the capital of Ukraine. Could be wrong, but it's getting bombarded, literally.
The shelling is ongoing in Kiev 3 hours ago.
So 27 minutes ago. Oh, and this recording is taking place February 26, 2022 at 8:32 p.m. Central Time. Okay. So Ukraine and Russia's militaries are David and Goliath, which is pretty obvious. Russia is huge. Ukraine is tiny.
Yeah, but, you know, they're getting the support like every other, you know, small, scrappy nation gets. You know, they get like the CIA training, like the guns being shipped in like covertly. So like,
man, okay.
There's like grandmas with ARs, you know.
It's just not looking good for Ukraine. So Guess how much Ukraine spent on defense for this war?
AF 15 mil.
4.7 billion. Guess how much Russia spent?
Oh, probably like 30 billion.
46 billion.
Oosh.
So it's just massively different, you know.
Yeah, I don't even know how to begin to guess military spending, but yeah, they're definitely David and Goliath in the situation right now. And there's a lot of like cyber stuff going on. Like they're tracking people's like gathering location using, there's geo location data on their
imagine
phones.
all wars would, from now on, have a lot of cyber stuff. Like you see colleges in the area popping up with cybersecurity degrees more and more. That's a growing thing for sure. So it's just every 10 minutes someone's dying, someone's getting blown up. 1 hour ago, Russian aircraft banned from German airspace. 1 hour ago, UK Defense Ministry, Russia's force suffering from logistical challenges and strong Ukrainian resistance. Okay. It seems like typical war things are happening. What's interesting to me is how much actual coverage we're getting from this war. Like, from World
the
War
Russians
II,
are.
you don't have videos of like, a tank rolling over a stop sign, like from someone's phone, from World War II. Like I just saw that on the internet,
Oh, the Russians are fucking taking TikToks of themselves and like the transport carriers, Doug. They're posting TikToks of themselves.
Well,
there's a guy in like an aircraft carrier or whatever. Like what aircraft carrier? God help me! Like giant airship with like a bunch of troops in it. You know the ones, the troop carriers. And he's like fucking just talking shit. He's like on my way.
That's kind of funny.
The Russian troops are just allowing people with press. Like they're actually like. They're not breaking the Geneva Convention openly, yet. As far as I can tell, they're not killing the press. So, like, there's a lot of press, like, within, like, eye shot of, like, the airport seeing the stop signs being rolled over. And, yeah. Fire's breaking out. They are, I don't know. This is pretty much speculation, but they might have had, like, people already on the inside. Because, like, when this happened, there was, like, explosions already, like, going off, like, true, they had shit at the border. There's probably, like, missiles and rockets, but they basically instantly took out all the military targets,
I mean,
they knew where everything was.
Sorry, keep going.
I was just like, they knew where everything was, and they took it out within, like, a few hours. So I don't know if it was, like, idiot saboteurs, like, people on the ground, like, ready, who snuck across ahead of time.
100%. Any war is going to have espionage and all that stuff in it.
Yeah.
Like, that's just typical. Like, this war is no different from any other war. Like, they're going to have people there first, disguise. They're going to have people that grew up there that, have friends that, and there's all the stuff you can think of is happening. It's no different than any other war. I'm sure.
No doubt.
I'm sure there's civilian. Let's see. What's the kill?
I sent you Twitter feed.
There's a Twitter feed for the war? Oh.
Yeah, it's like they're advancing on Kiev.
Is Twitter reliable?
Well, it's all the links to the news.
It looks like it's various sources.
Yeah, it's basically just like links to
New York Times, CNN. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's sad, really. Because from what I've seen on the internet, it seems like the Russian soldiers don't want to be there. And, like, okay, the thing that I don't know is, do the general population of Russia, like the citizens, feel the same way about Ukraine possibly joining NATO? Are the citizens against NATO in Russia? Like, do they
citizens aren't the government, so it doesn't matter.
Well, that's something I would like to know. Like, do the citizens of Russia share Putin's opinion on the war?
There's no uprising going on. There's no voting. There's no. Excuse me. Putin's been president for a long time, and just recently, the Chinese president took note for Putin. He was like, "I'm going to have a new term, a lifetime term. Like life president. So Putin and the Chinese guy Xi Jinping, their president for life. So it's kind of like a stranglehold. There's no, you can't vote for something. You can't suggest something. Their opinion does not matter to the military faction of the government.
Well, okay.
Which reminds me, get out and vote.
So here in America, we had troops in the Middle East, and then people didn't want our troops in the Middle East. So eventually we brought our troops back from the Middle East. But I think it would have been beneficial. Well, obviously I have no clue, but I don't know if there would have been a monetary benefit to keeping American troops in the Middle East. But
we keep forward operating bases in practically every country. Like, we have a long tentacles that wrap around the globe, and they are hubbed by our bases. We have bases everywhere. So there's probably still bases in Afghanistan, and Iraq. 100%. I'm willing to bet.
Well,
they didn't pull every dang troop out, but they have stopped surveying the streets, and doing their normal operations. I really don't know.
Okay. So The Guardian, is The Guardian a good source information? Yep. It's credible along with BBC. Okay, so here's an article from The Guardian that's very interesting. Thousands join anti-war protests in Russia after Ukraine invasion. So, this is, great. Russians are protesting war, but here's what's interesting. Police have made at least 1,700 arrests in 53 Russian cities. So protesting the war is illegal in Russia.
Oh, yeah, dude. So there's places that they would do protests. I'm pretty sure this was Ukraine. I want to say there's a documentary on Netflix where there's a protest about the government, the Ukrainian government or something. It is like a Ukrainian bloc, Western bloc, country. And they were doing basically a long, prolonged protest, a sit-in of a space, a government space or whatever. And they basically devolved into a fucking street fight with the guys, and then they eventually started shipping in extra security, and it was oh my god, they brought in the Russians, these dudes are shooting them in the face with fucking cans. They're doing the American style protest busting where they had to defend themselves fucking burning tires and stuff to slow these guys down. This is
what we're taking some things for granted right now because these people are getting arrested for protesting.
Oh yeah, that's in Russia. So the people in Ukraine were getting abused by these Russian cops. They were being shipped in from Russia, to Russia. This is every fucking day, bro.
So Russia is not free to just do, protest.
This is why they're giving communism a bad name. They're giving communism the worst possible name. I don't even think they're communist anymore. I think they're oligarchical society. I don't know exactly how to describe Russia now.
They are semi-presidential.
The president thing is is just posturing. It's 100% posturing. I guess they have a Senate and stuff, right?
It's somewhere in the middle. I don't know if it has a name. It's called the semi-presidential system. That's what they're calling it. So, okay. But either way, if these people are getting arrested for what's called protesting, then that's not very democratic or whatever you call it.
Well, it sure as fuck isn't that. But, we arrest protesters in this country too.
Yeah, but not for protesting.
Well, find a reason. They blocked the road. You saw that? Did you see my lights were on? Did you see my emergency lights were on? You're blocking me from going to an emergency. Arrest everybody on the streets,
well,
spray them all down with pepper spray from the water cannons.
I'm not there. I don't really know, but I know for sure that we don't arrest people for protesting just directly.
Yeah, but then you wait around, you wait and wait and wait until they it escalates into something you can fucking arrest them for, if you cough wrong, you can get arrested, you just assaulted me verbally, my feelings, the feelings police,
Okay, well that's an American.
You just holocausted my feelings.
Okay. So is there any more war facts you want to go over before we get into opinions of the war?
War facts, but what are facts? I don't. There, everything is fluid right now. You know, the history of leading up to the war, yeah, it's vast and infinite. Okay, Russia was in Afghanistan. You know, the USSR literally collapsed in Afghanistan. You know, like it's this is not new for like the Russian military to be like quote unquote defending while being the guy attacking, you know, like, oh, what do you mean? It's obvious, isn't it? So obvious what I'm doing right now. I'm defending. So like it's the go-to move, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
They've done this before. They love that move. The move is good. It's a good move. It's a good move. Good for them. If you can move that, if you can do that move, do it. But yeah, Russians are yeah. That's the thing. You can't say Russians, you know. You have to have like an asterisk, you know, because fuck, the Russian people are oppressed, unfortunately. You know, I don't want them to. I don't. They want to say that. They're like, oh fuck, I love this shit, you know. But like, it's clear that things could be better, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, they're scared of change, and that's fine. And that's kind of like what's going on with China. You know, they're like, we're doing this for our people, but it also has like a tinge of like expansionist, you know, like stop expanding, like stop expanding with the defensive purpose, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know enough about Russia and Ukraine, you know, besides just what I pretty much just from what I've read today, right now. It's probably the most I've known about them.
Yeah. All I know is allegory and hearsay.
But it seems like the Russian people don't war either, you know? So
Yeah, of course not. Of course not. They're like, why do we need to push that way? Why? You know, like
Putin's point of view is he's going to do this because it's good for Russia in the long run. You know, he's worried that NATO is going to take over Russia. So,
and there's this whole chicken or the egg thing with the Azimov battalion where they're like, we are far right wing paramilitary esque like militia, you know, and we're here to basically defend against the shit that happened in Georgia and Crimea, you know, like probably even like people from those conflicts are there training the people from the Azimov battalion, and those are the people that are kind of fascist Nazi kind of looking tendencies, you know, like I think there's an Al Jazeera interview with the Azimov battalion when they're training like an old lady, and there's like some cute thing that went all viral all over. Like there's a 57-year-old grandmother shooting an AR-15, you know, like she's ready, or no, she was shooting an AK. Wow. So it's like, so they didn't show the American guns. They're like, and she's ready to defend her nation, you know, like, and that was like literally like 24 hours for Russia, like pulled the trigger. Like, and they're like, why have you joined this military group? And this guy's like, they align with my ideals and my political beliefs. And he's like, would you be willing to share those with me? And he's like, not on camera. And it was like a hard cut, you know, like he's like, yeah, you can only imagine, you know, like I don't want to like pretend to imagine, but you could probably imagine, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe I'll share a link with you. I don't know if you looked at the Azimov battalion.
What is this a picture of?
Oh, this is probably the better one where it shows you like the breakdown of like what it is. Like what they had originally was like this symbol with a wave and then a black sun in the background, and like the black sun is like a thing basically like popularized by Heinrich Himmler and his like Nazi occult castle. He was like, this is where we're going to summon warlock demons and shit, you know? So whatever. This is like on the floor of his like occult castle, you know? And they're like, hell yeah. So they like put that on their thing, and they're like, they got in trouble by like the Anti-Defamation League. And they're like, Doug, we're going to cancel the fuck out of y'all. Like, get this off your shit, you know? And they're like, fine. So they like took it off, and they're like, we're just going to take the two side things off, you know? Like literally like two lines less than a swastika. You know, these are the guys that the Russians are like, guys, these are clearly the Nazis. Can I just go in there and wipe these guys out real quick? And unfortunately, these are the people on Al Jazeera training the 57-year-old grandma. And these are probably like trained by like either old guard Russian or like Soviet or, you know, that area. Like soldiers or like maybe even CIA operatives, you know.
So this is a neo-Nazi group in Azov battalion marching in Ukraine. So are these Ukrainians?
Yeah, this is the
So is this like
the Ukrainian Taliban?
Okay, so is this similar to American neo-Nazis?
Or
is
I guess so.
Is their version of a neo-Nazi different than our version of a neo-Nazi?
Actually, no, but they have slightly more support there. You know, because like Ukraine was like basically in World War II is like split up. Like it's like either you fought with the Russians or you fought with the Nazis. You know,
right.
That's kind of how it was in that area back then.
So these neo-Nazis, do they not like Jewish people?
I don't know. I'm not aware of any hate crimes or anything, wrongdoings.
Their president is Jewish.
Let's see what bad stuff. What bad stuff have they done?
So what is they're called Azov Battalion?
Yeah.
Okay, Azov Special Operatives Detachment or Azov Battalion is a right-wing extremist neo-Nazi unit of the National Guard of Ukraine.
Right wing.
Okay.
Not left wing, not liberal, not Democrat, but right wing.
It saw its first combat experience.
Libertarian or Republican, or even far right.
Okay.
Fascist.
So it saw its first combat experience recapturing Mariupol from the pro-Russian separatist forces. So they're fighting Russia.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like an informal volunteer militia.
Just like what the neo-Nazis would be in America.
So Russia is using this as their scapegoat for why they're attacking.
Yeah. I can see this now, like conspiracy theories. Oh, we're gonna create one right now. We're gonna create one right now. This is what Biden's gonna do. He's gonna start the civil war against the Republicans because he's gonna try to fight the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville.
All right.
Whatever. Fuck that. I don't know. Declare martial law. Storm the streets looking for tiki torches. If you have a tiki torch or a polo shirt in your closet, you're getting rounded up. And we're going to look for your vaccine card.
Okay, no. So apparently this group, Azov Battalion, is not necessarily anti-Semitic. And there are a lot of members of the Jewish community in Ukraine support and serve in the Azov Battalion.
It's kind of like meme lordy. It's like we hate Russia so much that we're Nazis.
They're basically just anti-Russian, which
they're anti-Russian Nazis that like only the anti-Russian part of the Nazis.
If they're anti-Russian,
that's so funny. They're like the swastika. They're like there's two parts that we took off. That was racism. We completely snipped racism out of our cause now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know for sure. I've heard of these people 5 minutes ago, whatever, but it seems like their goals are not race-based or whatever. It seems like it's strictly anti-Russian involvement based and strictly pro-Ukrainian and not necessarily pro-NATO. More just strictly pro-Ukrainian. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's definitely militia like,
very niche, very, very specific,
niche indeed.
Okay, so I wonder if this battalion is blown up due to Putin's like him saying this is why he's attacking. Like, I wonder how many people are even in this militia.
Not the Russian military's worth. That's why it's like, wow, Russia took over Ukraine in 2 days. Who'd have thought? You know, like, literally, I was just scrolling Twitter, okay? Mm-hmm. Like, I sent you that thing. Like, Russians are rolling up on Kiev, and it literally stops, like, 4 hours ago. It's like the last thing that's posted on there is, like, from 4 hours ago. It's like, all internet has stopped from Kiev. 3 hours ago. Shit you not. The shelling is ongoing in Kiev, where it's just after 1 a.m. The country's deputy interior has warned against a pending airstrike. Follow the live feed. It's just like, that's 3 hours ago. I'm like, oh, It's not a live feed, it's a picture. So I'm like, I literally can't find an update from now, you know?
Oh,
It's like they literally have like been wiped off the face. Did the bomb just fucking fall, dog? There's too many Russians in the border. Come on. Don't do this to me.
okay. So
Change in radiation levels after Russian fortress capture. Okay.
guess how many people are in the Azov battalion?
150,000.
According to Wikipedia, which could be wrong, it's about 900 people.
Hilarious.
So that solidifies my thought that this
Bombing
is just,
buildings.
this is the scapegoat for Putin.
Yeah, he's like, we're getting away. Unless we root these people out
Yeah.
of every building, block by block.
Oh man. Well, I hope this war ends soon with as little death and destruction as possible.
Something about higher Chernobyl radiation after Russians capture plant. What is this? What are they fucking doing in Chernobyl? Come on, dog. Don't do this to me.
What source are you reading from? Is it Fox?
Washington Post, Reuters. Everybody's fucking. It's an echo chamber on Twitter. Everyone's like, radiation levels are spiking around Chernobyl power plant. Dude, it's all gonna be like
I highly
debunked.
doubt that.
The Russians are about creating plutonium as we speak.
No, they're just saying, what do Americans know about Russia? Well, we got Chernobyl. Put that in the headline.
That was a great show, everybody. Everybody
Yeah.
follow it.
Good sci-fi show.
Science fiction.
Oh man. Okay, well, what?
What are your opinions on the situation? I guess.
Well, okay. So all of my information has just been from the internet, from the articles I've read, things I've seen on the internet. But using that data to develop a good opinion, well, not good, but an opinion is this. I think better communication between Russia and Ukraine could have probably, not have created this war. I think that it's understandable that Russia doesn't want to join NATO and have NATO involved in Russian affairs or be too close to home, Like, obviously, I am part of NATO or whatever, but I understand their point of view that their way of life is Russian or whatever, and they don't want to be in NATO or have to do with NATO things. So I think the Russians in the Ukraine, huh?
They were in NATO
Who,
at one
Russia?
point.
Russia
Yeah.
is in NATO for a small amount of time, yes, but they are currently not NATO and do not want NATO. So, I feel like there could have been a middle ground that Russia and Ukraine could have settled upon. That would have been peaceful for both Russia and Ukraine and NATO. I think that Russia is being a little hardballed, taking over a small little country when they could have stricken some sort of deal, possibly economically.
Truth be known, the Ukrainians are like, come to the table and negotiate. Come to the table and negotiate. We're ready to negotiate. Please negotiate. Come to the table and negotiate. Everybody's asking, please negotiate. Russia, don't do this. Come negotiate.
Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, war should never happen. Obviously, like it shouldn't exist. But that's not the world we live in. Like, overall, I don't agree with the whole countries thing. I don't really like that there's countries or borders or like, like I don't like that I have to get a passport to go to like, Korea or whatever, or someplace, I don't really agree with that whole thing. I think we went down the wrong path from the get-go there.
Old.
So I don't like that.
With the one world government opinion.
What does that mean?
No borders, no currency, all one situation. Maybe one currency.
Oh, I don't care about currency. I'm literally just talking about, to go to Canada. I would like to just walk there and not have to do paperwork. Because I think that having countries also causes other problems. Like, this is mine, this is yours. So I don't personally like that whole situation. That's already a thing?
It's always been a thing.
What's that called?
Manifest destiny. I don't know. Ownership. I don't know, man.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a thing. Okay. Yeah. I think we went down the wrong path from the get-go, just with how we live on this planet. So whenever we're all the way down the line of talking about, we're protesting this border and people are getting shot in the face with a can of whatever. It's like, man, I just can't escape the thought. It's like we just went down the wrong path from the get go. So whenever I see stuff in the news or whatever, I'm like, this is not interesting to me because we're just so far, in the wrong direction, in my opinion. I guess that's my train of thought. But I also don't think about it that much, so I'm sure I'm overlooking things or not taking things into account. So there's that.
Well,
What do you think?
I think this is the world that we live in, and I think we should pay attention to it. I know it doesn't affect us personally sometimes, but I don't know. I'm under the assumption of I don't know, man. Let me think about it.
Well, it's not an easy topic because it's so large and it's so large in time and scale, and it's also on the other side of the world from us. So, it's hard to give like a accurate 100% this is what's happening, this is what should be happening, which possibly no one knows, and maybe there is not a thing that should be happening.
Well, history is written by the victors, but that was before the invention of the camera.
Yeah, I actually had this thought, was like, we're reading history from who won, but now it's like there's so much evidence and data that it's like, can history be rewritten?
Well, as long as I can black out the internet, it looks like they literally fucking did that. I shit you not. Like, I was just thinking about that. I was joking, but please tell me I'm wrong. Okay, see, 7 hours ago, literally, I can't find anything from 3 hours ago. Like from Kiev. There's people just talking shit about it. But I'm like,
well, Ukraine president. Let's see if he has a Twitter.
But there's nothing inside. Oh, he's been evacuated.
He has
100%, dude. That dude is not a line of fire.
He is on Twitter, and his last post was 7 hours ago. This is the Ukrainian president Zelensky. Had a phone conversation with Boris Johnson, grateful to the British Prime Minister for his position, new decisions to enhance the combat capabilities of the Ukrainian army. Agreed on further joint steps on the counter-aggressor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, this is kind of I don't know. I thought there was an aspect of territorial dispute, where they're like, we're going to take it,
What do you mean? That is what's happening. Oh, territory dispute. No, I mean, from what I've seen, there was no territory disputes. From what we just read, it seems pretty plain and simple. It's just, what's his name? Putin is an old dude who likes the Russian way. Well, let me back up. That's kind of rude of me to say, because perhaps the Russians
He's almost 70 years old.
Okay, he is old, but that's not what I meant. So perhaps the Russians, the people, don't want to be in NATO. Understandable. It seems like the Russian people do not want war. I don't know of anybody who would want war. Because let's say the average Russian citizen, would they gain anything by having Ukraine taken over by Russia? Probably not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whenever America bought Hawaii. Okay, that's a bad example because now we can go to Hawaii to vacation. But let's say whenever
there's a lot of Russians that are in Ukraine, so he's
17%,
claiming to defend them.
17% of Ukraine is Russian population.
Yep.
So, I mean, any reasons from this guy is false. Literally anything he has to say, assume it's false. I would assume it's war propaganda. This whole neo-Nazi thing where there's 1,000 people out of however many people are in Ukraine, which was a couple million or whatever. It's that is not a reason to start this war where they're it's so obvious. You come in from all sides of this country to take it over because of 1,000 people. Definitely not. It's not even an entertainable reason to think about. Yeah. It's clear that, but what's interesting to me is how they're not just saying it's because of NATO engagement. 2 weeks ago, the president Zelensky said that they're looking into joining NATO. Okay, 2 weeks ago. So it's very clear that that's why. But I don't know why Putin would not just say that. Why not say it's because of NATO, moving into my territory? Because it seems like that's totally understandable.
I don't know. Maybe he's losing his touch. He's a ex KGB agent. He's a spy.
Okay, so let's also back up. It's got to be not just this one guy making all the calls. I'm sure there's hundreds of people, thousands of people, paperwork, committees. I'm sure it's not just him going, let's attack Ukraine. I'm sure it's more than just him, which maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. I really don't know how their government works.
Well, he's got the final say on it. Yeah. He's the dude who's got his finger on the button. He makes the calls. You know?
Well,
But he does have military leaders. So whenever he gives a command, they do it. But you're absolutely right. There's people clawing from the bottom up, whispering in his ear. You know, just like everywhere. You know, every good government has some good ear whispers. But
okay. Well, yeah, let's look up the how much Ukraine is worth, like economically speaking. Okay, so let's think about this for a moment. So let's say Ukraine is an economically a good place, okay, which it seems like it might be. Then I could see the benefit for Russia wanting to take over Ukraine for money. Okay, so let's figure this out real quick. Ukraine is worth 184 billion. Okay, now how much is Belarus worth?
I'm getting 155
Oh, okay. Where do you see that?
Google GDP 2022. 2020. Wow, it's old.
2020 is okay, I guess. Okay, so trading economics. All right.
You know, it's
So,
all oil and fucking minerals and shit, dude.
well, yeah, it doesn't really matter what the actual, what is it called? Resource is,
Commodity.
because they're just going to convert that to money and then use it for whatever necessary. Okay, so this is how do you switch between countries?
You type a new country.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so Belarus is worth 60 billion. Okay, this is according to tradingeconomics.com. So Belarus is worth 60 billion. Ukraine is worth 155 billion. Okay, Russia GDP. Russia is worth 1,480 billion. Okay, and China is worth 14,000 billion. Okay, so Ukraine is a very profitable country.
I bet it's because of their shipping.
It most likely is. So,
It's like, dog, I need to get my willy wet.
so I was curious why Russia didn't take over Belarus instead of Ukraine. So Ukraine is a relatively profitable country. Belarus is about half as profitable. But at the same time, Belarus was not looking into joining NATO. Only the Ukraine was looking into joining NATO. So I think it was multiple things that made this decision to where Russia should take over Ukraine. 1, NATO. 2, profitability.
Yeah, if you're thinking in like video game terms, like why wouldn't he attack the North? Yeah, dude, he wants that port. He wants all the resources.
What do you mean? Why would he
Yeah.
attack the North?
Like there's a lot of trees. Looks like good industrial space up there. Yeah.
Oh, like Art of War type stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Like looking into all the finer details of
Well, they attacked from every point they could. The only side they couldn't attack from is the NATO bordering countries. Like they can't, if they put their troops into NATO country and then attack from there, that would be a huge problem.
So
They
look,
attacked-
dog, they attacked from Belarus.
Belarus is not NATO.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Belarus
So they,
and Russia are friends.
yeah.
And
So
they
that's
attack
it.
from the water, Black Sea. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. The economy thing was just something I was thinking of, or the monetary benefits. I don't know if that actually plays a role in this, but I kind of assume it does because, why wouldn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's inexcusable. It's really disgusting.
Oh,
honestly.
yeah. Like, all this aside, war just in general is just bad. Like, just overall. Like, I know that's super a blanket statement to say and just childish to say or think about, but it just really is, like, never okay. Just in general.
Yeah. I don't know what the solution is. Like maybe we should talk off camera about like there's a lot you can't it's they took down the USSR, but the fucking Iron Wall is like still up. You know, you can't like the only way to take down Russia at this point is like a severe, like crazy espionage raid. You know, you'd have to like disarm to disarm every nuke in Russia, like gone in 60 seconds style, like
Well,
all at once, like it would have to be like a massive fucking like internal uprising in order to like take this over. There's no way to vote the way you want to in this situation. Like,
well, again,
this is what happens when people get like their superpowers, and you can't really like get rid of the powers that be. It's kind of the same in America. You vote for the president, but like the people that harness the power are still in there for the previous regime, and it requires a massive movement to shift the needle even slightly. So sitting still never works, you know, like everybody's got to be engaged, unfortunately. And that's kind of got to be the message. Everybody has to be engaged, and they have to know what you feel and how you feel. You know, nobody's going to agree, but only sometimes does it devolve into a despotic fascist state that attacks nearing nations, you know, and countries. So,
well, I think that okay, one, taking down a country is not the solution to any problem. Two, any sort of there's always a mutual benefit that can be reached, and there could always be a gain in both favors if the two entities can accurately think about what each other wants and be able to supply or give each other like basically a mutual relationship can be reached in any situation. The only reason it can't be is from miscommunication or you know, just basically not thinking about what's wrong. And I think that applies on all scales, from like one person to one person to one country to one country. And I think that's the ultimate solution.
Yeah, that's.
I think it's also
pull up a chair.
It's probably very, very difficult to figure out what that mutual benefit would be, and hence why that's not what's happening here. That's why Russia's just taking over Ukraine instead of figuring out, okay, is there a better way we can fix this issue? You know,
you're never going to convince Russia to tell. It's like Russia's always kind of been like a moody teenager. You know, it's like, what's wrong? You know, nothing.
Because like in terms of business, you know, well, I mean, that's a bad example. I don't know. That's about all I had to say, I suppose.
Well, that's one way to look at it. This is a vast and confusing topic that is changing all the time. And I don't know, maybe it's the morning or the middle of the night there. The tweets have stopped from inside the country. Everything now is just people like, hey, we're the New York Times and we still have a Twitter. Please like subscribe, you know, like they literally like ran out of shit to talk about. There's like current. Oh my, looks like they're already in there, you know, and Zelensky's like calling a lot of people, like asking for help, you know. I'm like, well, if he actually gets any help, like that might, I mean, nuclear war. So let's I hope he doesn't get it.
I'm looking at is Chernobyl in Ukraine?
I don't know. Maybe, I guess so.
Well, there's somebody that has I'm looking at a picture of a picketer who says, "What kind of psychopath takes Chernobyl?" It is in Ukraine.
Yeah. He's like, you fucking just take it.
That's funny.
What? Where did you see that?
Reddit, front page, top. Very funny.
That is pretty fucking funny, dude. What kind of psychopath?
Okay, well, I hope this war ends soon and peacefully. What else you got to say about it?
Nothing. It's fucking shit's deteriorating. Maybe Reddit's the best way to go. 7 hours ago, 5 hours ago. Armed forces of Ukraine have captured a major of the U.S. Army. Or the
Reddit is not a reliable source of information. Hold on.
I'm believing it. I'm believing everything. Look at all these people waiting at the train station. This is real life. 20,000 people protesting in Switzerland. Oh, holy shit. Well, all right. How long is the recording?
About 2 hours.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, I can stop rolling through Reddit.
No. This is a topic.
topic.
Let's make our points clear.
Well, this has many parallels to other situations that are going on, like kind of a Hong Kongy vibe. Old dude's giving off a Kim Jong-il vibe, where he's like, I'll nuke you with 60-year-old bombs. Just kidding. We retrograded him with subsonic or what ultrasonic missiles. So he's like, Putin's not claiming he's got fucking like ICBMs and like nukes that are like ultrasonic and shit, like, which means you can't use like lasers to fucking like track these things, you know, like, or it's faster than the speed of sound. So it's like, our traditional anti-missile technology no longer works. Like we're gonna have to like use like laser beams like attached to a fucking I don't know to another missile. I don't know what you would have to do to shoot this out of the sky. So like there's all sorts of crazy like threats going on. So yeah. This is a common problem, a disturbing problem, a problem that needs to be addressed, problem that people need to know about. You know, do your research. Don't trust the first source. Don't trust our sources. Just fucking listen to what we said and then further look into it.
Yeah, definitely. I was doing my best to make sure we were reading from reliable sources, but obviously you never know with the internet.
Depends on which side of the spectrum you lean on. Our sources could have been god tier crap. So,
well, I think it's beyond that. You know, it's not just that. You know what I mean? But
this situation is literally so fresh, it's so malleable that like we're getting is like TikToks. We're getting TikToks, and like we know how fucking accurate those TikTok titles are. Like, young Russian soldier cries as local residents tell him that he is not welcome in their country. You know, like literally could be anything. Some guy, his dog died. You know,
could be a video from 5 years ago. You never know.
Literally from any other like drunk Russian. You know, like we captured Russian major, apparently captured by Ukrainian troops. Like insert drunk Russian man. You know, like just lying there, like you know, like he's shell shocked or something's going on.
All right. Well, you got anything else to say about the Russian-Ukrainian war as of February 22nd, 2022?
I'm looking at the fucking... I can't stop scrolling Reddit. This shit's funny. So the Russian stock market took like a massive, deep dive, you know.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And lots of stocks. If you missed out on the only opportunity in the last 100 years to invest in the stock market, that one 7-hour window, you should have dumped everything you had. But I missed out on it. I found out about it literally an hour too late. It bounced back. Like I wish I would have dumped everything I had in there.
All right. Well, this has been Learn the Burner. I'm Garrett.
And this is Neville.
We'll see you later. Bye.
Peace.